Welcome to Decades of Horror, the classic era.
The will to survive. It's an odd phenomenon. Roney, if we found out Earth was doomed, say by climatic changes, what would we do about it?
Nothing. Just go on squabbling as usual.
Egads, man.
This is episode 93, recorded February 21st, 2021.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Jeff Mohr. On this podcast, we cover the good, the bad, and maybe even the ugly horror films released since the beginning of time through 1969. In each episode, we'll discuss the monsters, spirits, psychos, and villains that have haunted movie-going audiences since the dawn of film history. With me this week are my incredible co-hosts. First up is Whitney Collazo, an accomplished artist, makeup artist, and writer. Whitney, how are you?
I am good. We see the sun in North Carolina again. I'm happy.
Hey, we are going to have a weather report here in just a minute. So next up is Chad Hunt, co-host on Decades of Horror, the 1970s and the 1980s. Film producer and director with Wreak Havoc Productions and a comic book artist and writer. Chad, how are you?
I'm cold. Jeff, it's very cold. The sun is out, but it's very cold outside.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And the egads at the end of the quote reading was me. I was improvising. Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Chad never could stick to this.
No. Story of my life.
Also joining us again is Daphne Monary-Ernsdorff. How are you, Daphne?
Oh, really good. How are you guys?
We're excellent. I never asked you for how to introduce you. You're just
just Daphne. I don't have any cool movie
oh, sure you do.
Makeup or
Yes.
Any adjectives you'd like us to use next time, like awesome and stupendous? Sure. Okay. Let's
Yes,
put those
and
in.
stupendous Daphne.
Yeah, the stupendous.
Yes.
I got
Daphne.
I like to make costumes.
So, yes,
for it.
you do. You make some awesome, you do some awesome cosplay. And I'm like, how is it going to look like what she's talking about? And there it is. It's wonderful. That's why I don't do stuff like that. I can't.
Hold on, let me write that down. Multiple costume making.
You guys.
By Daphne. Okay, got it. I got it. It's really.
But you had a bunch of snow. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. It's all gone now. Yeah.
That doesn't take long. Is that normal? Every once in a while.
Snow?
Every once in a while, yeah, snow in Seattle. It happens rarely enough that when it happens, no one knows what to do. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and we are on hills. We're a bunch of hills, so no one can get for us. It all shuts down, but it's pretty.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it's not like you in Iowa.
We get snow and ice every year, and they still don't know what to do.
Oh.
There's always 60,
Makes me feel
80
better.
car pile-ups and stuff. So,
Well,
anyway. Yeah, I didn't know if that was normal or not. All right.
No.
So, our topic this week. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Our topic this week is Quatermass and the Pit from Hammer Films, directed by Roy Ward Baker, written by Nigel Neal. Cast includes James Donald, Andrew Kear, Barbara Shelley, and Julian Glover. Release dates, it's one of those ones with tons of release dates, and I saw conflicting information all over the place, so I'm going to stick with the ones in IMDb. 29th of September 1967 in UK, although I saw an interview on Little Shop of Horrors that said it was September 26th, and I actually saw a letter from James Carreras of, I think his first name was James, Michael Carreras. Chad, help me out.
Carreras,
Mr. Carreras.
Monsieur Carreras.
Inviting people to a screening on September 26th. And then I believe it opened in November. There was a premiere date and a countrywide date. Opened in the U.S. on February 7th, 1968. It was filmed February 27th through April 25th in 1967. Locations, a small piece was done at St. Nicholas Church in Chiswick in England, which is where we see Sladen run up through the graveyard up to the church and meet the priest. The rest of it, I believe, was shot at the MGM British Studios in Borehamwood, which was a kind of a new thing. They were Hammer was moving their studios from Bray Studios to Elstree, and they said, "Dad, we don't have room right now," and so they pretty much got the run of the place at Borehamwood, which they were truly excited about. The budget was £275,000, and once again, I translated this on a historical currency calculator, and that said $768,000 for 1967. But I also saw an article that said 660,000 US dollars. So yeah, around 700,000 bucks. Domestic box office on Ultimate Movie Rankings was $2 million, which I assume is the US. I have no idea what it did in UK. I would assume it's more because Quatermass was quite the thing in England. So first up, we have the Quatermass. I said it. Quatermass.
Oh my God. Let me get a big glass of water.
That's why I chastise everybody before the podcast. Don't ever say this.
He was saying, if you guys even say Quatermass one time, you're going to owe me $50 each time you say it. What does he do straight out of the gate? Quatermass and the pit.
Well, this is an awesome poster. I like this poster, even though Barbara Shelley never wears anything even close to that. But that's kind of
yes. Is that Barbara Shelley? I was wondering, who is this lady on the front?
Yeah, well,
I think she looks like Vanessa. Vanessa should cosplay that.
Yeah, she does.
But like the other Quatermass films, so the Quatermass Experiment was history of Quatermass here for just a minute. And maybe Chad, help me out here. You probably know all this stuff too. But at first they were BBC serials on television. And then Hammer made movies, bought the rights to do the movies. So they did the Quatermass Experiment was first, and then Quatermass 2. And they were quite a big deal in England.
Oh yeah,
Quatermass shows on TV. So when they were released in the U.S., of course, the U.S. people said, "Well, nobody knows anything about Quatermass, so we're going to call them something different." So the Quatermass Experiment became the Creeping Unknown.
The Creeping Unknown.
And Quatermass 2 was released as Enemy from Space.
Enemy from Space, yeah.
Yeah. So this one, once again, and this is almost probably over 10 years after the Quatermass 2, or about 10 years. Quatermass
I think this is the third one in the three that they did,
right.
I think.
Right. And they actually did the TV show around 1960, give or take a year. I'm not exactly sure of this. So anyway, this gets released to the U.S. and it's called, if you look at this poster, 5 Million Years to Earth, which kind of makes sense in the story, but anyway. And you know what? I kind of like this poster too, other than the title.
Yeah, I think it's a neat poster.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. But if you want to sell Quatermass, that's not how you do it. I mean, Quatermass was really, really popular. So I was always kind of confused by that 5 million years to Earth.
Right. Right.
Had you guys seen the Quatermass, the serial?
No.
I saw it later in life.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I didn't even know that there was a serial until we started watching this.
So this is another one of those things. I heard somebody in an interview saying, who was it? Steve Haberman and Konstantin Nasser did one of the commentaries on the Blu-ray, and they were talking about how they'd done a Blu-ray of the Quatermass in the Pit, the series, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I tried to find it, couldn't see anything. So maybe it's just maybe over the pond.
Mm-hmm.
But I did notice that they do have, you have to look for them, but all the episodes of Quatermass in the Pit are online. If you want to see it, they're not great, but they're good enough to watch. So the synopsis of this, which is it's a complicated plot. So I elected to go with a longer one, just so that as we talk about it, we won't confuse anybody, especially me. A mysterious object is discovered buried at the site of an extension to the London Underground. Also uncovered nearby are the remains of early human ancestors, more than 5 million years old. Realizing that the object is, in fact, an ancient Martian spacecraft, Quatermass deduces that the aliens have influenced human evolution and the development of human intelligence. The spacecraft has an intelligence of its own, and once uncovered, begins to exert a malign influence, resurrecting Martian memories and instincts buried deep within the human psyche. Okay.
That's a good synopsis. It is really complicated.
Yes.
So, I don't understand this. Sometimes I think people mess with this. Have you ever seen Toho mentioned with this, Chad?
With Quatermass?
Yeah.
No. Not until this very moment.
Yeah, was that something you sent us that had that? Or I saw it too, and I thought, but I can't remember what I saw it on.
It's on the workflowy, but I think I believe I got it from IMDb, so it couldn't possibly be wrong.
No.
I think too many people are paying for access to that, and there are people going in there just trying to mess things up. It still says that. For production company, it says Hammer Films and Toho Company. I don't understand why, but at any rate. And I think I've gone through a lot of this. So some also known as 5 million years to Earth, we said. Here's our requisite German title. Das grüne Blut der Dämonen. Or Dämonen. The green blood of the demons.
He needs some milk.
And can you see these, Whitney?
Yes. ¿Qué sucedió entonces is what happened then. Or you could say, ¿Qué pasó entonces? But I mean, it's the first one is good too. So.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird title for a movie. What happened then?
Yeah, maybe just referring to the past. Obviously, like, this is something that we're just now figuring out. I don't know.
Portuguese was O Mundo das Trevas, the world of darkness. This movie had a lot of times you go into all these alternate titles and they're all the same thing, just in different languages. But this one had all different ones. The Italian, which I'm not going to try to say, translates to the spaceship of the lost beings. So apparently nobody wanted Quatermass in the pit, which is very strange.
Wow.
Okay.
At first, I thought you said of the lost beans, not beings. Sorry, that's why I was laughing.
I have a million jokes for that. I'm not gonna, I won't tell them here.
Beans are a lot. Who cares about the beans, Chad. Long taglines.
Long taglines.
Go for it.
Okay. All Earth stands helpless, spawned in the depths of outer space, a monster so horrible, so vicious, so incredible, even when you see it, you won't believe it could be. Which tells you nothing about this movie.
Yeah.
And the second one's even worse. This just sounds like this should go to on the tagline of the City of Lost Beans or whatever we were talking about. Force more powerful than 1,000 H-bombs unleashed to devastate Earth. World in panic. Cities in flames.
I love it.
Amazing.
Well, I thought I saw some other
City of Lost Beans. Coming to
World in panic. Cities in flames. Yeah. Right up. Apparently those were both US. Oh, it's so embarrassing. All right, let's go to first impressions, first time seeing this film, and what do you think about it now? And I am going to ask Chad first, because we've talked a lot about Quatermass in the past. Yeah, so yeah. I want to hear what when he first saw this, and what's his take?
I am a huge fan of these movies, of Quatermass, the character in general. The first one I ever saw was the Quatermass Experiment, or the Creeping Unknown. That's a movie that just predated a lot of the body horror movies that we see now. John Carpenter's The Thing, movies like that. I love, and I'm a big fan. I liked what was the fellow that starred in this one? His name,
Andrew Kear.
Yeah, I like him. I like him as Quatermass, but I'm a bigger fan of Dunleavy. I like a rocket scientist guy that looks like he'd punch you out for being late with the rent or something. I don't know. He just got that noirish tough guy thing about him. And on the other hand, he's a rocket scientist. So I kind of like that dichotomy there. But I just am so in love with these movies, because if it weren't for Quatermass in general, we wouldn't have The Night Stalker. We wouldn't have The X-Files. We wouldn't have half the John Carpenter movies that came out, So these are, in my mind, these are really, really important films. And to me, because they're so influential and they're so entertaining on so many different levels. You've got monsters, you've got science fiction. It was just such a great film. And this I would say is the most well-written one as far as concepts and ideas go and stuff like that. I love the characters here. I thought they all did a great job, and to this day, it's still just a joy to be able to sit down and watch them, and especially this one. This one, as a kid watching it, I was really taken by how fake these crickets were, these grasshoppers. But I get it now that they weren't really meant to be, alive and scary and that kind of thing. And so how they sort of predated how people would see evil and the devil and that kind of thing too. So it again, these were very well written, well thought out films as far as scripts go and ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, they're still to me a joy to watch each one of them. And I think you and I had talked about when, the Blu-rays were coming out, that we were going to see about getting them. And I forgot about them coming out on Blu-ray, I guess. And they came out and they were under my radar when they came out and didn't get to. But I'm sure going to try and get them now if I can. Well directed. The special effects were awesome. Some of the makeup effects were really good. How they manifested the psychic chaos was really, really well done, I thought. And Just a well done movie, fun to watch, very fun to watch, and it keeps your attention through the whole thing, and it still stands up today. To me, it does anyway. All these films do. Stands up very well, actually, and it's a shame that they never went forward with making any more of them. I think they were having so much success with the monsters, the gothic stuff, and that kind of thing, that Quatermass kind of got put to the side a little bit. But I really, really wish they would have kept going with these movies. It would have been something to see, I think. But yeah, I love them. I love this movie too. So.
Yeah, and there you have it, straight from the five-legged cricket from Mars. All right.
What happened to my other leg?
Daphne.
Oh, hi.
How are you doing? And why? When did you first see this? And what are your thoughts?
Well, I can't tell you when I first saw it because I don't remember, but I am pretty sure it was with my dad, who introduced me to Doctor Who and Star Trek and all sorts of awesome stuff on TV. And I remember, so I know I saw it with him, and I remember I just mostly have flashes of it, like the alien that looks like the devil out towards the end, and some of the flying around stuff, or some of the stuff when the stuff is like telekinetic stuff happening down in the pit, and some of the military guys. But it's something that I didn't remember the whole story from, but certainly I hear it, I've heard of it. You know, it's such an influential, talked about movie that it's always been something I wanted to go back and watch again. So, yeah, when we brought this up, I was super excited you guys were going to talk about it. And I got the DVD. I listened to one of the commentaries, not the one that you mentioned, but the other one. But God, this movie is amazing. I love it. It is so good. I watched it like 4 times since. Wow. Once with the French subtitles. Thanks for sending that. And then and then through the DVD. But it's an amazing movie. The writing, the story, I can totally see how it influences. I mean, the whole thing about aliens, were they here? Did they come here before? You know, it's all that stuff that people have talked about since. I don't know, maybe they talked about it before too, but I feel like it's such it's so ingrained in sci-fi and horror now, and to see it kind of being introduced there, at least to me, I thought it was great. And some of the colors in it blew me away. The writing, the dialogue, the acting, God, it was great. I'm so glad I got the DVD, the Blu-ray, because it's awesome.
Yeah. It is. It's there's a ton of stuff on there. Mm-hmm. I had a hard time wading through all of it. Whitney.
Well, gosh. So
when did you see this?
I've never seen it, but I own it. A friend gifted it to me, and I finally got to give it a go for this. So yes, oh my goodness, the special effects. I'm in awe of how much disaster we have seen throughout this whole thing. I guess like 30 minutes after the 30 minutes into it, then we start seeing, like, after we see the dialogue, the characters interacting, and then just getting to all of these midpoints of the issue of finding literally digging into what this thing is, or what these things are. And like Daphne said, the concept of the alien species, or whatever these things are, how long have they really been here, and how long has human versus these kinds of creatures been around, and just questioning that kind of existence. It's creepy, and it's unknown. Just knowing that this is a back and forth thing among people in general, is just having these strange conversations. But seeing that, and again, in your face in sci-fi, it's really cool to see, especially with this film, especially. And again, the special effects is that's really something that got me. I love the makeup. I love seeing these things, these little insects, or, well, not insects, but they're huge, they're massive, and seeing all of this disaster unfold. I loved it. I don't know what else to say. So yeah. I know I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this too, and I don't remember first time I saw this. I think, you know, I have my memory is that I watched it on one of those weekday movies I talk about all the time. You know, when I got home from school, but it couldn't have been because it would have been too early. I may have seen it on TV when I was in high school. So I'm not sure, but my first time seeing it, I remember thinking, oh, grasshoppers in the in the subway. And the other thing is, I think the American version, I didn't see any information about this, but I think there was a bunch cut from it. I'll check while we're talking, but I thought that the Blu-ray is 97 minutes, and I thought that you could see 5 million Years to Earth on Amazon, and I thought it was quite a bit shorter than that. So we'll checked it out, and that could be part of the problem. But the more I watch this, the more I love it. It's one of those movies I just keep watching it, and I marvel at the acting. These people are these characters, right? Mm-hmm. Even little things that I loved. And I too thought the first time I saw it, I thought the creatures were pretty lame. But then when I thought about it now, I'm thinking, well, geez, 5 million year old giant grasshoppers, and they talk about how fast they're decaying. They would be pretty light and fragile, right? I mean, we've seen insect husks, etc. The rest of it, the closing, the scene at the end when they show the video to the minister gets a lot of grief, I think, in terms of bad effects, and we can talk about that later. But that anybody who doesn't have it, I would strongly recommend the Scream Factory, Shout Factory Blu-ray, because there's 3 different commentaries. One is Roy Ward Baker and Nigel Neal. Now, most of the time, it kind of seems like they just kind of start getting into watching the movie, and then the guy with them has to ask him a question, whoever that is. And then there's the one I mentioned before with Steve Haberman and Constantine Nasser. That one, nothing against those guys, but it was my least favorite because they spent most of the time arguing about what was better, the movie or the TV series, what they liked, which wasn't what I was looking for. But the third one is a guy named Bruce Hallenbeck who wrote a book called Hammer Fantasy and Science Fiction. And that guy knew his stuff. He really had a lot of interesting information, I thought. All right, so let's get into these. I this time I did not pull up pictures of the director and that, but as it turns out, Roy Ward Baker was a guy who had been around for a while as Roy Baker, but when he started doing Hammer films, there was an editor named Roy Baker, so he changed and added his mother's maiden name Ward to it, which then, because they didn't have IMDb to list them all under the same name, all these people thought he was a different guy. But anyway, I think his most famous film before the Hammer stuff is A Night to Remember, which was about the sinking of the Titanic. And that's a really, really good movie. And he hypothesized that the reason he got asked to do this was because he had done this movie with crowds and disaster and stuff before, and he knew and had done it well. So what did you guys think about that? Anybody let's just have a conversation.
About Roy Ward Baker?
About Roy Ward Baker, about the direction. Yeah.
Good.
Well,
Well, he go ahead, Whitney.
Well, I mean, I haven't even seen A Night to Remember, but I want to. I've heard of it, and I've heard, and it makes sense. It makes sense that someone like him, like you said, would do a film like this because of how to direct a crowd. And that, honestly, I don't know what else to say other than it makes sense, because when a director looks at their sort of canvas, like their place of what of their set and everything, and just knowing the right people to have on your set to help put your characters into place and then have their marks and everything. I mean, I don't know, I'm going to stop rambling soon, but the thing is, I'm glad you said that. And now I've learned something, and it just makes sense.
I loved a lot of I loved the different shots that he had in, like, down in the pit. There was just a lot, I guess, got really caught up in some of the color. And I don't know if that's him or the cinematographer or both of them together. And I think that's probably also in some of the shot angles that he had. But the browns down in the pit, and then the greens and the oranges just in Barbara Shelley's wardrobe, and towards the end, some of those colors come back, and the things in the field of the camera are just, I feel like the placement is so, it just draws your attention to it. What was that, Whitney?
It's like earth tones.
Yeah, and it just pulls you in there.
When you're saying browns and reds, there's a lot of that. Yeah. It makes sense.
No.
Yeah.
Chad, you had something to say, I think.
Well, my favorite part goes along with kind of what Whitney was saying earlier about the chaos at the end, and how that chaos slowly built up to the climax of the movie. I thought that was some of the best examples of that, building tension and building action, and still telling the story and still keeping those characters who they were, and just it was an amazing directorial job. And I love the ending when the two of them are just sitting there and the credits are rolling and they're just going, holy crap, what just the hell just happened? And they're like out of breath, and that was just
they're
amazing.
so tired.
They're so tired, and the credits are just rolling. I just thought that was a brilliant way to end that movie.
They're just quiet, exhausted.
I
just felt like, okay, now what? Like, they're just sitting there, kind of. You could feel like time was going, and they're just processing.
You didn't see that in a lot of movies. A lot of movies at that time would wrap up with their little happy endings, and you'd get the big horn section going dun dun dun, the end, and that kind of note. You just got complete silence as the credits are rolling, and it was just I just love that part.
And it was long. I mean, it really took a lot of time to go through all those.
It did.
I liked how you guys both brought up how it slowly is brought through. So it starts off with science. Well, it doesn't even before science. They're working on making the tube, extending the tube, and then there's archaeologists there, and then it kind of gets a little weird, and then it gets kind of a little haunted housey, kind of spiritual stuff, and so there's your spookiness, and then it goes into sci-fi monsters, aliens, telekinesis, all this stuff, and it just reminded me of how people talk about, if you want folks to follow along with you, you got to start off in reality, and then you kind of bring them into the unbelievable. Like, you may come towards the end and you're like, how can these scientists believe that we're from insects, but you go along this whole thing and it's obvious, and you're screaming at the military, of course, of course, don't let them do it or whatever. You're totally along for the ride. And it was awesome.
And this is an idea of aliens influencing early man and that kind of thing. It was probably around in the scientific community and conspiracy communities, but not in movies. That didn't really come around until the 70s with Chariots of the Gods and those type of movies. So it was really presenting some ideas that were kind of ahead of the time, and presenting them in a way that was sort of believable and made you think a little bit. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy about these films and the way Nigel Neal would write these. He didn't play them off as stupid B-movie type tropes. It was, the ideas were fresh. The ideas were I don't know. It seemed like they were at the forefront of what everybody else was doing, and that's one of the big things for me is how well they're written, and then on top of that, you have such good actors in it to say the lines, and make it believable and stuff like that. It's just a great film as far as that stuff goes too.
As far as the story, I loved how it incorporated myth and science and humanity and history all together. Like it was kind of, like you said, you had to think a lot about it, but it kind of connected Alien with the history of humanity, but it also talked about evil being like myths and the devil, and how that kind of became part of a shared psyche, but also the evil that doesn't have anything to do with myth, just the evil of alien invasion or the human condition to want to destroy everything that's different. I mean, these two things that seem so different, melded them together. Nigel Neal melded them together. And I really had to think a lot about what was going on and think about afterwards, like, what does this mean? What are you asking me to think about? And then there was even more after that you have to think about. Stuff that applies now.
Right.
Yeah, I like they didn't have like there was not like a 5-minute exposition scene. They kind of parsed out the exposition in pieces as they learned things, and I thought that was really well done. But you're right, it melds everything. I mean, we've got devils and we got archaeology and we got alien invasion. I thought the ship was way ahead of its time in terms of the design of the ship. Can you think of any other ship like that you've seen from back prior to that? It seemed to me like they were always either saucers or
they were always. They were even the show Invaders, which was was always a saucer with little lights going around, and so this was kind of a cool design to see. It was, I think they made it to look weird in a way so that you wouldn't really know what it was at first.
Yeah, it was a lot more organic.
Yeah.
It almost looked like it would be shaped like a rock or something to that nature to stay in form with the earth in a way. I don't know. That's how I looked at it.
Well, and it had apparently there's that one shot which I guess was sort of a special effects fake shortcut, but like a shutter
jade or something,
like a shutter thing closing in on it. Then you saw like veins and fluid flowing in it, before it started to pulse. So I thought it was interesting that the little bits that they talked about, Roy Ward Baker, they asked him if what the budget was for this, and he was like, I didn't have any idea. They hired me. I knew how much I was paid. The production manager set up the schedule, and I figured that was their job to make sure, that everybody else followed stayed in the budget. I was just there to direct the movie. And the script, going to Nigel Neal, he said the script was very cinematic, or very it had movie time built into it, if that makes sense, I guess. And I don't know, I would imagine there's lots of different formats you can use for scripts. I know some of them get really detailed on shots and things like that. But it kind of sounded like Neal's was a lot like that. He God, there was something else I was going to say about Baker. They said he was kind of touchy because if he was impatient with people that screwed up. Let's put it that way. As long as everything was going well, he was a really nice, friendly, funny guy. But if he messed up, don't mess with the schedule. That irritated him. But time is money. So There was something. Oh, the other thing, there was something about Neil. So let's talk about the script. I thought it was just really tight, and Neil made a comment, or somebody quoted him somewhere of saying there's only like 3 types of alien stories. Either we go to them, they come to us, or they were always here all along. And so I thought that was interesting. But this script, I thought, God, I just couldn't believe how tight it was. All the information that you're given without feeling like you're getting information dumped and still moving the action along.
Yeah. It's amazing how much information is crammed on. Each page of a script should represent, I think it's a minute of film time. Is that right, Whit?
Yes.
More or
each
less.
minute. Yes. Each page, each minute. And you have to, well, you definitely have to think about how much time is it that, as a writer, that you want to place into a page, and how long your scene is. And then eventually you're going to have to think about how many takes is it going to, exceed with the amount of time that you have to shoot that film. But no, with this one, I feel like the story, like what Daphne was saying before, there was a lot going on, and you guys were saying with the tie-in of these things from this alien sci-fi situation of these things questioning their whereabouts, and then there's some spiritualism, like some question of things like the diabolic side of things. And I loved seeing that in this story written in the script, especially that scene with that gentleman running to the church, and that ground. Like there's so much going on with the earth. Like there's so many things earthy going on in the ground, just kind of like waving with the rocks and stuff. And then that guy, he feels like that's such an evil thing kind of going on right outside that church before he runs in there. And then he's going in there and he's like really shocked and in a way traumatized before Quatermass. Like, how am I going to say this? Quatermass, before he goes in there with Barbara to talk to him about his situation and his experience. And he's sitting there processing like this was like a diabolic spiritual experience. And then that's prior to that, and everything in a story, you have Quatermass talking about, well, what is the nature of this subject in science? This is, we're scientists. We have to break everything down. And then eventually his mind changes with the experiences going on. And that's what I like seeing with his character development. And with Barbara, along the way, she's already thinking intuitively. And then I loved seeing that along the story with her. Like it's more of like a Mother Nature in tune kind of thing with these creatures. Or I'll let you guys take this one now.
No, I agree. It's and we just recently covered Prince of Darkness by John Carpenter on 80s, and a lot of the themes in that movie were touched on in here too, religion versus science, and just in that little scene maybe. And a few of the other scenes too. So there's a lot in this movie. There's a lot of stuff that is touched on. And going back to that 60 a minute per page to be filmed, they're really packing a lot of stuff in there. Like Whitney said, that, but they're not doing it in a expository way. It's like they're letting the story do the work. As it's unfolding in such a way, and that takes the director, the writer, your DP, all those guys working like this to tell that story in an effective and efficient way. And this is just like a master class in that. I think I've never read the actual script to it, but you can kind of tell just by listening to it. And how everything's unfolding, that's what happened. It's just a master class in it.
It's a complex thing. And I was sort of blown away by how much was packed into it too, with the story.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I was like thinking when I was watching it,
but even afterwards, you know, it sits with you, and you're like, wait, what? You know, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, our whole view of the devil and you know, it's all based on something that maybe happened millions and millions and millions of years ago, brought on by just the form of an alien that brought in this idea of evil. And then all these different people have interpreted it differently. Like the guy thought the priest, you know, interpreting it on purely as like his exposure to the devil and evil. And he definitely took it that way. Oh my God, that actor, all the actors are amazing. But yeah, there's so much stuff. It's so awesome.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff to talk about here. Talking about the director, several different people in these interviews mentioned a guy named Burt Batt, who was the assistant director, and they said he was basically like the sergeant major. He was a guy and then he would give orders to people, you know, I need 100 extras for tomorrow, or I need 50 extras in an hour, and they have to be wearing different clothes, and, you know, and so someone else had to scramble and do all that stuff. And they said he was one of the ones that just really kept everything going and on time. And Baker was very complimentary of his work as well. Well, let's look at the oh, and by the way, Chad, Neil didn't like Don Levy.
I know, but that's tough.
I did like that. That's okay, and that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I think Kear was more along the lines of how he envisioned Quatermass. You know, Dunleavy brought that tough guy aspect to it, or look to it.
I think they liked Andre Morel gets a lot of compliments about that too. He played Quatermass in the TV series of Quatermass in the Pit. Yeah, and he's a guy. He played, I believe, he played Watson in Hound of the Baskervilles. He's been in some Hammer films as well. So we had basically James Donald, Andrew Kear, Barbara Shelley, and Julian Glover were the four main leads.
Poor Julian Glover. He has the worst luck with archaeologists.
Dr. Jones.
Yeah. Give me that cup, Dr. Jones.
He
died here pretty much the same way as he did in that one too.
Well, let's take a look at these. And it's interesting that James Donald gets top billing because he was more well-known. Almost, there we go. He was in, they kind of made a big deal about him being in 3 really famous prisoner of war movies from World War II. So we've got, you know, in the upper right on this slide, we've got Bridge Over the River Kwai with Alec Guinness. The next one down, I believe, is King Rat. I don't know. Do you ever see that?
I know of it, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
I don't know who's in the center in this picture, but the one on the right is James Fox. And then the bottom one, Great Escape. That's a who's who. We see James Donald standing among
Coburn,
McQueen, Charles Bronson,
Steve McQueen, yeah.
And that's is that Richard Attenborough?
Attenborough. Yeah, that's him. It looks like him.
And then the center picture, he plays Vincent Van Gogh's brother Theo in Lust for Life, the film with Kirk Douglas. And finally, the one clear to the left, I believe, is the Viking. If I remember that right. Remember that movie with, God, who's in that? Kirk Douglas, Tony Curtis, Ernest Borgnine.
it didn't have a monster in it, so I probably did not.
So I'm always worried when yeah, you didn't see that. Well, it has a guy. He's supposed to slide down. It's like a ski jump, but it's a blade, and that's a penalty for doing something. You have to slide down that. If I remember right. So what do you guys think of James Donald?
He was great. First of all, I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, he looks so much like John Hurt, who I love. But anyway, he was playing this character. I told all these characters, they like you said, these actors were these characters. Even the fact that he did stuff like he was saying what all the time, like Quatermass would say something, and he would be like, what? You could tell he was thinking, like his whole character is very inquisitive and thinking about things. And and as their friendship built, I thought that was so genuine, him and Quatermass, and just his kind of his demeanor. He reminded me of someone I used to work with who was very intelligent, it was also really nice at the same time. And I loved that he and the soldiers, at first, you could definitely tell that he couldn't stand the military. I love the line with yep, go ahead, tear it up or whatever in the beginning. But then the soldiers kind of got along a little bit together, so that when they found that fully intact skull, and the first thing they said was call Dr. Roney or whatever. And he came over there, and you could see he was so excited and happy and to get this thing. And I just totally thought he played that character so well. I loved that character. And then at the end, just the kind of selflessness that he had with that. And then he came up with the idea to use metal, which is more of like a myth, like from the myth of the devil and stuff like that. And here's a scientist who was able to think these other things and embrace these other ideas. It just, oh gosh, all the actors were so good. I thought he was really, really good.
Yeah,
I can't think of how many ways I can say he's really good. He was really good.
Well, gosh, I don't know what all to say other than yes. What really got to me about his character was the end, and I wasn't really expecting that. I wasn't expecting him to see him so drawn to doing that. I had to rewind it and go back and because I wasn't sure if it was a selflessness thing. I was like, wait a minute, is this because how he feels determined to go and place himself in this position? Does he feel compelled to place himself in this position, or is he being drawn to this position because of all of this talk of back and forth of is this really evil, or is this really, like, these things, are they really that controlling? Because there was a point, I think Quatermass said don't look in that direction or something, because that's what made me think it was more of a control thing. And but I liked what you said with your perspective there, because I had to rewind it, like, wait a minute, is he being controlled, or is this something that he's doing? So I had to think about that.
I feel like he did it. He knew what was going to happen to him, and which kind of goes along with his character. You know, up to that point, you know, he was looking around and he was seeing the devastation that was going on, and he saw a way to stop it and keep it from spreading, and he did it, and that was, which made even that ending all the more somber with the silent credit scene. Just so that's what I got. That's what I got from it anyway. I feel like anybody that was being controlled, it seemed like everybody was being controlled, but them, because they were not looking at them. We're not looking at the main cricket head, or whatever you want to call it, demon head. But I don't know. I just felt like he knew, if I don't stop this now, this is going to get worse. Right.
And I think they talked about this in the commentary, Jeff. Maybe you tell me if you, but they picked out that for some reason he was immune. The commentator was saying he was immune to the pull or the genetic history that we share that was triggered with the exposure to the aliens, and kind of almost like on a genetic level, like they were saying, okay, so some people have this natural immunity to it. So he might just be one of those people, because that's how genes work. Sometimes he has a natural immunity, but perhaps Breen has, as much as he fought against it, he had more of it triggered in his DNA to be drawn towards it. That's why some people, why Barbara's characters could see what was going on, and some people are more drawn toward it than others. I'd even think about the fact that maybe he was being controlled, Whitney. That's interesting. I guess that hadn't really. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because I thought he was
I had to
doing
rewind
it because he was.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I thought he was doing it because he was immune, and he knew that Quatermass would be get taken over, right, and wouldn't be able to follow through on it. And yeah, I did hear that somewhere, and I was trying to remember if it was in the script or if it was in the commentary, but there was like 3 different. You're either like totally taken over, like a lot of the people attacking all the other people, or you're like Roney, who's seems to be immune, like either those either there's some kind of immunity or those genetics have gradually weeded out of his system. And then there's other ones that are in between that if they have some focus, like Quatermass, they can withstand it to some extent.
Yeah. Which to me is just another amazing thing to have in here, talking about immunity and genes and stuff. It's so cool.
I was going to say this too, Chad, going back just a little bit. It's weird how we just did Prince of Darkness. We just did Prince of Darkness, and Carpenter wrote the script under the name Martin Quatermass. And for as straightforward a nod as you can be, the brother of Bernard Quatermass. And we also just did Gargoyles on 70s. And I remember thinking about that. I'm pretty sure in that episode we said we couldn't think of any other things based on Gargoyles earlier on. And then boom, we watch this and go, oh yeah. This one tries to explain gargoyles and all the demons and in prior, written history and pictures and drawings and books, or even on caves. I think there was a picture of a cave. Yeah. So, I thought James Donald was awesome. He is a very controlled but very believable. And there's weird little things that I thought. There's just things in this movie. This is the kind of thing I rewound because I was so impressed with it. When the guy finds the other skull and he goes running up there, and he runs in front of Colonel Breen, and he kind of slips, and Breen catches him, but then Breen won't let him go. Yeah. It's like, what's this guy doing here? I just thought that was just so well done. It just looked so much like, oh, thank you. And then he can't get loose, and then he gets mad, and then he jerks away from him. And a lot of times trips or slips in movies don't look very good, but that was between the two of them, it just looked totally natural, I thought.
Yeah.
And along with what Daphne said too about how he starts off running down the military, but then when he gets down there, oh, this is a prime specimen. Thank you so much. The guy's like, okay. But yeah, he just is so good. And the other actors, Julian Glover had an interview on the extras, and he said that he was like James Donald. The way he went about his work was like his idol. He wished he could be an actor like that. Not something you think about,
Even in the scene in the bar where Quatermass and Roney are just talking to each other, and Roney's trying to kind of get him out of it, get him back to being himself. And it was just so believable, this friendship between the two of them, both of them. The way that Kear was doing the Quatermass's his face and the struggle, and the way that Roney was just calling on him, like, think, who are you? What's going on? You know, it really felt believable. Like, these were questions that would trigger. These are totally questions that they would ask each other to bring them back. It was a very real conversation. It felt like.
Definitely. There were so many great lines. There's so many great lines in this movie. When go ahead, Whit.
Oh, I mean, if we're still a little bit on Breen, I mean, can we talk a little bit about what happened to him? Like that whole that whole like frost, whatever that thing was. I don't know, that was pretty crazy, a crazy way for him to go out. And they're like, well, what happened to him? Where is he? And then that reveal of his that special effect of his being and what happened. I'm like, oh, that was pretty brutal to see. It was cool though. Sad, but cool.
and it really makes me wonder, because again, in this Little Shop of Horrors issue, it, by the way, is number 40. Y'all can order that online. They actually had Bruce Hallenbeck talks about it in his commentary, but there was also an article that he recounts it. It shows, like, when they sent the script to the censors, what the censors wrote back. And one of the things they said about that was, don't be showing him smoking. Like, we don't want a person smoking. And also don't linger on it, or don't, you know. And so then right away we go to it and he's smoking. So I don't know if the censors decided, oh, you know, that's not so bad, or if, you know, these were just suggestions and it turned out not as bad as we thought, or what it was. But he was fried.
And they said he fell in the pit. He did his own stunts. He was the one who fell in the pit. I guess they said they couldn't afford stuntmen. I don't know if he's joking, but he just fell in there.
Yeah, they had stuntmen, but for some reason that thing, I don't know. I thought that was weird. He said, of course, I would never do that now. But,
it was a good fall, though.
Yes.
Well, let's take a look at him. We brought him up a little bit. I did not know he was the guy in Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
I never made that connection. He was the master. I forget what his name was, but the kind of the guy that was
the nosy guy in everyone's business.
Things behind the scenes, you know.
Yes.
Didn't he create the mountain guy? I don't know. Big dead guy that had him. The mountain and the guy were brothers, and
he created a lot of problems. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And then Chad brought up and Daphne, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So we've got Harrison Ford, Sean Connery, and there he is holding a gun on him. And the other one was the James Bond film, For Your Eyes Only, I believe. One of the Roger Moore ones in the tuxedo. And Empire Strikes Back.
Star Wars.
I mean, this guy, for a guy that most people, if you said Julian Glover, you wouldn't be able to picture anybody. This guy had a lot of roles in a lot of seminal movies. Yeah. And they kind of said he was they thought maybe he was a little young to play this colonel, but he was so perfect at it. Once he started acting, nobody questioned it anymore. He was but at the same time, you know, and I think this was in the script, he did try to kind of make peace with Quatermass. I think isn't this character in the other movies? Chad, or is there a different military guy who's going to take over?
I can't recall. But there was always a military guy that was trying to throw a monkey wrench in everything.
So yeah,
I just can't remember if it was this particular character.
All right, so Quatermass is played by Andrew Kear, and here he is in some films that he did. Some for Hammer. The first one there is an episode of The Avengers. It's the only one where he doesn't have a beard, I think, and he's definitely a beard guy. And you know what? I've lost my memory on this one. In the bottom left, it was in one of those pirate movies they made. For Hammer.
Devil Ship?
Yes.
Devil Ship Pirates?
So he was in that. The one in the center with the helmet, that was the Viking Queen. The upper right is Dracula, Prince of Darkness, where he's driving the stake home in Barbara Shelley. Or about to, anyway. Mm-hmm. And then the next one is Blood of the Mummy's Tomb, where he's got the dagger. So it's another guy. He was in a lot of Hammer films, and I think he plays that sort of staunch British scientist, emotional though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
a little prickly.
Then he comments about his
Dunleavy was more one of
it
those.
Surprises.
What are you doing, you mug? Put that test tube down, you mug, before I bash you in the skull.
Test tube.
Yeah, Brian Donlevy was like, how do you turn Quatermass into a film noir? You know,
right.
Brian Donlevy. And last but not least, the actual reason that I picked this film was Barbara Shelley, who recently passed away in this year, even January 3rd. And I was trying to go through films that she was in and find ones that we could do. And we had already done some, right? We did Village of the Damned on, I forget what, I want to say episode 11, maybe, from 1960. She plays George Sanders.
I still don't buy her as George Sanders' wife. Sorry.
No.
George Sanders' daughter, maybe.
We also did the Gorgon about a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
She's excellent in that. We talked about her. These, and then, where she's Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and then Rasputin, the Mad Monk. And it's out of focus, but that's Christopher Lee as the Mad Monk in the background. So she played with all these stars. And then she was on these two that are kind of weird. They're sort of like prisoner of war camps. The Secret of Blood Island is one where a woman comes there, and that's a Hammer film. They hide her, basically. She's trying to escape from somewhere. And then the camp on Blood Island is a different one where they actually have families there. I guess Blood Island was not a place you wanted to be. But wow, I just think in this movie, help me out. Anybody?
She's amazing. She is such an important character. I mean, she is smart, she's capable, she's confident, she's elegant, she's warm. She's the one that recognizes that Hob is spelled differently and that what Hob means. She's the one that does the research to find out that this place has a history. She's the one that recognizes when that one soldier, I can't remember what his name is, got sent in, the first one that could visualize the aliens, and he starts freaking out, and she's like, she remembers the quote about the evil goblin-y type folks. She's the one that picks up on that. She's the one that, finally Quatermass, because of her, she's the one that gets anybody really to pay attention to it. It's like she's the one that sees these things. She's the one that sees the light in the spaceship down at the end. I mean, she's so important to the story, and she's looked fantastic.
Yeah.
She did. She definitely.
What Daphne said.
I mean,
Go Whitney.
Very intuitive with everything, and that was very much known and shown, especially when she was saying before having to put that metal thing around her head in that one scene when all that chaos was going on near that pit area, and she's like, I can see, and she was already intuitively going along, finding these connections to what Daphne was saying before that, and then it really was happening more so in that moment and leading up to all these other events. So she was the intuitive character, the magnet for things to just to push things along. And yes, she was amazing. Yes. Yeah.
That's a really great way to put it, because I was just thinking more of like her being equal to Quatermass and kind of like the scientific way and looking at things, but yet being able to pick up the other stuff. But you're right, she did also kind of act like a magnet, which is kind of similar to the science versus myth type thing, that she just kind of brought that part along with her.
Definitely.
Very cool.
Yeah. She plus she made that sacrifice, right? Even though she saw what happened to Sladden, the drill operator, and the soldiers, she made that sacrifice to go, it's going to work if I wear it. So
yeah,
that's right.
And you could tell at the meeting afterwards when they were showing the video that she really felt like what happened to her, what she saw was really traumatic. You know, she still played that, like kind of the reliving it very well. She is great.
Definitely.
I felt like she found a way to, the character is so interesting, and the way she plays it that's what's so amazing to me, in that you've got like Quatermass and Breen kind of walking around bumping chests all the time, trying to show who's got more power, who's the smartest one. And she has this attitude where it's sort of like, almost kind of like, yeah, let them do that thing. I'm the one that's figuring this stuff out. You know, I'm the one that's sort of
she was
in control, or
let them do their thing. Let distract that. No one's going to pay attention to me while I go do this other stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And got them to listen. Right.
Yeah. Oh.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No. I mean, the first time she shows Quatermass the stuff about the past, he's kind of like, he starts to go off. She goes, wait a minute, look at this too, you know. And then he starts to get how much is involved there. It is so good. I think the writing and the acting of those four, and you know what? Everybody in this movie, the acting is phenomenal. So she was. This is a great role for her, and I don't think it can be said any more too strongly how well she does in this role. She could have been the original, I guess, in the TV series, and I haven't seen it, so I'm just, you know, it's not from experience, from hearing from what other people said, that it was a lot lesser part, and she made it a bigger part. I think not just from the script, but from the way she acted. You know, the different way of playing that character wouldn't have been quite the same. And did you notice? I mean, they call her a great hammer scream queen, you know, or one of the women of Hammer. But did you notice when she screamed, she did not scream. I mean, it was more of a cry of anguish. You know, it wasn't. How do I want? I can't think of a way to say it. It wasn't a high pitched, girly scream.
It wasn't a scream queen scream.
Yeah.
It was more like a real person scream. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't really kind of fear. I almost felt like it was like I didn't really feel like it was fear. I feel like it was expressing like all this stuff inside. She just was releasing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
It was like normal people. Normal people. That's how they. That's how I do anyway.
Yeah.
That's how you scream.
I got made fun of for going So I started trying to think of a better way to do it.
Well, the scene where she has the headpiece on too, that could have been so silly. And I told wow, it was so believable.
Yeah. She was great.
Yeah,
she was great.
I can't talk about, there's just so many things to talk about. I mean, the cinematographer was Arthur Grant, who did a lot of Hammer stuff. We've talked about him before. The guy that played Slatton, Duncan Lamont, he's in lots of Hammer stuff. And that was another incredible performance when he is taken over and goes stumbling out of the place. I don't know where that came from, but that was really unsettling.
It was. It really was.
And the special effects inside the ship with the stuff flying around, I thought was really good too.
Yes.
Well, even as he's running through the cemetery and all the stuff that's still flying around, and can you imagine what it took to make that scene happen?
It's almost great. I think it was Nigel Neal in the commentary said he didn't really like talking about the special effects. That takes away the mystery of it. But too many other people talked about it. But they basically, that stuff flying around in there was just stuff on fishing line or strings, wires. There was also compressed air and he actually called them jet engines in one commentary, and one of them, one of those, or the wall falling down was a prop guy on the other side pushing it with a broom. That stuff amazes me that they do that stuff so cheaply, but it looks so good. That they find that way of making it. To me, it's like it's magic. It's the same kind of stuff that happens in magic, right? They get you to see something that's not really what you're seeing, but that's what you think you're seeing.
And that scene that Whitney mentioned, where he's lying on the ground and it's rolling underneath him. God, that was so creepy and intense. I love. That's probably one of my favorite. There's so many scenes that are I could say was my favorite, but
my favorite.
And when he was telling Quatermass what he saw, again, another scene that could have been totally crazy, but I totally believe that he saw this and he was so freaked out by it, almost like he was having some sort of mental breakdown or something from it, describing it. And then when Quatermass asked him to think about, look at the sky, what color is the sky? And he's like, really thinking about it and going back into that memory. So good.
Yeah, that was dark. Oh, it's purple or I don't know. I'm like, what? Okay.
I wish I could. I can't figure out who it was, but the police officer, the Bobby that takes him into the building, the abandoned building, and tells him about when he was a kid.
Yeah,
that was great too. I mean, that couldn't have been an easy scene to do. And by the end of the scene, he's sweating and nervous and scared. And all right. I don't know. I could talk about this for another hour, but at some point I got to kind of cut off what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll take it then.
Okay.
The guy, just the folks from the Ministry of Defense, like even those actors, I thought they did a great job.
Yeah.
The minister, like just bureaucratic and but so like oh, he was so good. And then the other guy who I had to look him up because I don't know what his role is, but he was there in the beginning too, and the minister was kind of telling him what to do. He was answering the phone and everything. But at the meeting, when they were going over the video, it's almost like he was like listening to Quatermass and going, "So what you're saying is," like he was really thinking and like maybe believing,
right?
Or at least he was like, "Okay, you know," and yeah, they're good.
So I believe the police sergeant was played by Grant Taylor, and the minister was Edwin Richfield, who's also he's very recognizable. I couldn't pick out where I'd seen him, but I know I've seen him in other films. And there's some other characters that are recognizable as being something that you see in Hammer films somebody in Hammer films, etc. Well, let's go to final comments here. I think it'll be past Chad's bedtime pretty soon, and his brain will just shut off. It's an automatic thing. It's happened before. Especially
it's
when
my
he's
CPU. There's a switch in the back of my head.
That's right. So final comments. Whitney, do you have any final comments? Anything that you wanted to say about this that you didn't get a chance to say, or just? I
feel like there's something. Okay, there's some processing a little bit here. I think this is one of those movies that you definitely need to go back and watch again, because I know I want to, just to see what are some of the things that I've missed, and seeing some of the perspectives, like I just loved when, again, Daphne, she was saying, well, that was when Roney had went towards the end because he was immune. He felt compelled to do that task. And then I had to rewind it back, but now I know I have to go back and like see everything again, just as a whole, just because the acting, the effects, just the writing, everything all pushed into this complex story of this thing of crickets. I mean, it's awesome, and I'm glad to say I want to revisit this again. So, and I guess if anyone doesn't feel that way, I guess it's just not for them. I don't know.
So there.
Yeah. Chad, how about you?
Well, as you know, Jeff, I'm a huge Quatermass fan, and if you are a fan, and I made these comparisons earlier, but if you are a fan of some of Carpenter's movies and X-Files and stuff like that, you have to find these movies and watch them if you've never seen them, and you'll sort of see the genesis of where some of these later movies come from, and it's not like you're going to go back and watch some cheaply made piece of junk movie. These are well written, well acted, well directed films, and I think they're some of Hammer's best films, right up there with the Dracula movies and Frankenstein movies and ones that they did. They're just, to me, they're right up there at top tier with the rest of those. So yeah, I highly recommend it.
Whitney, or I'm sorry, Daphne.
You can call me Whitney.
It'll be easier for me.
Easier than poseur, right?
Both have two syllables, but still.
Okay. I could talk for a lot longer about this, but I know Chad has to go to sleep. But the thing that really caught me at the end, was, we're talking about color at the beginning, the earth tones and stuff, but like the last scene after they leave the pub, Barbara's character is totally in red. Like the red of your lips, Whitney, this bright red. And it made me think of Carrie almost. She's walking down kind of like that. And so there's a bright red, and then there's the orange of the fire. There's a scene then when Quatermass, there's mine. Quatermass looks up and you see the fire behind him, and that's this bright orange. And then Roney's calling up the crane, and it's this green. And then there's the purple sky behind him. And I was just like, oh my God, the color in here is amazing. It's just so beautiful. Yeah, I think I rewound that and watched it a couple of times because it just really struck me how beautiful that was. There was even a scene where there's a little red, I don't know if it's like a telephone box or what, but is there. And there's just all these super bright colors. And the beginning kind of starts off on this brown dirt thing. And yeah, I don't know, but something about that color really got my attention at the end. I just thought that was really beautiful. This is a little kind of side note thing.
The red caught my attention too. With there was red where when Quatermass we first see him sitting in the minister's office, and they're telling him he's losing his job. He's sitting in this big red chair, and then
that's right. Yeah.
There's another one where the military or whoever getting into a car, and the upholstery in the car is red. And then when those are the only things I noticed where it was really a bright color.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, nice. Get this. And if you like knowing inside stories and things like that, go get the Blu-ray from Scream Factory. I mean, the interviews on there. There was Julian Glover. There was Roy Ward Baker. There was Nigel Neal. They even had like a few minutes of the focus puller. I think they basically that was cool. I mean, they and I think they probably just went around and found the people that were still alive, really, to be honest, an extent. But there's just a ton of stuff on there to listen to. And I kind of said, I didn't like the Steve Haberman, Constantine Nasser one, not because I didn't enjoy their discussion, but that's not what I was wanting to hear right then. I just wanted details about the movie. I didn't want to hear that particular thing. It really was well-informed and interesting. Yeah, check this movie out if you haven't seen this. Wow. And leave comments, etc. We love that stuff. We do have some feedback. Yes, we do. From last year, and I'll do these in order. Actually, I finally, as I've said on the other ones, I did my job and I went back and cleaned up all the feedback and got it going. We even have one here from Daphne, I think. Oh, I didn't put it on this one. It's coming up. So from episode 88, The Black Scorpion, Ralph Miller, who joined us, has joined us for 3 or 4 episodes in the past. A special effects artist. Such classic creatures, not as real as actual scaled up tarantulas and such, but much livelier than they could ever be. Nightmare fuel rendered by masters of the art of stop motion. So yeah, that was an awesome. I still love that movie.
Jerry Chandler was on that one with us, I think.
Yes, he was. That was his pick. That's right. Ralph's been with us for The Incredible Shrinking Man, Hexen, and what was the Trick or Treat?
From Outer Space too. Oh no, was he on Dracula Clowns?
He wasn't on that episode, but that's how we got hooked up with him. And then, we did sort of a career discussion of some of his films. Next up is episode 89, Peeping Tom. Andy Morton from UK says, creep me out way more than Psycho ever did. A darkly colorful portrait of psychosis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it too.
Pretty creepy. That's right.
It was creepy as heck.
And thanks, Andy. Appreciate that. And then on episode 90, Son of Kong, which included oh my God, my brain. Ed
Martinez.
And another special effect artist that is a big fan of stop motion. Joel Bartolomeo writes in, my goodness, Black Scorpion, and now this. Thank you kindly, Grue-Crew. More than the actual movie, which I love, it's hearing the stories and memories when we all first found these films, whether theaters, local channels, late night hosts, or afternoon Saturdays. This is what brings us all together from all over. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Joel.
I appreciate you, Joel, and I agree. I always liked hearing the stories of how people encountered them and the impact it had. And from Christopher Miklos, who is co-director of a horror film you can watch on Amazon, The Nursery from 2018. And you know what? He has a podcast too, but I can't think of the name of it right now. So, search that if you're interested. He says, really enjoyed this podcast. This is also on Peeping Tom. Hadn't yet seen, Son of Kong. Hadn't yet seen Son of Kong, despite enjoying both King Kong and Mighty Joe Young. So I'll definitely check this one out. I see it's on HBO Max, so I'm eager to dial it up. Another great episode, gang. So thank you so much, Christopher.
Thank you.
Christopher's out here in the Midwest with me. He's from Wisconsin. So yeah, and so I'm parsing these out. I got more of these lined up. I just didn't want to read them all at once. So come back next episode for some more. Well, group believers, that's it for this episode. But every 2 weeks, we'll be focusing on a specific film released between 1920 and 1969. Next up is one chosen by Chad, the Cricket Boy. What is it?
The great Mario Bava's Planet of the Vampires from 1965.
This is a good movie. That's going to be fun too.
It is Bava.
Bill Mulligan's favorite director. Looking forward to that one.
It's funny because Bill is not Mario Bava's favorite director. Just funny.
Well,
had to, Bill. It was just low hanging fruit. I had to pick it.
He understands.
I just watched Now the Screaming Starts and by Faye Baker, and there's the crawling hand in there.
Yeah, they're trying to squeeze those in every movie.
Maybe watch out. Yeah. Maybe watch out with the T's and term.
The bad thing is Bill's scared of monkeys with scalpels, and there's not many movies out there with monkeys with scalpels. So.
But Chad, being an artist, can come up with monkeys with scalpels. A little photoshopping, a little ink work,
I thought about dressing up like a monkey and having the scalpel just waiting in his closet.
Oh
but I figured out I could go to jail for that. So
I see a cosplay coming. I can't even imagine.
Just stand in the closet going phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Dressed in a gorilla suit with a scalpel after Bill.
Tripping over cats.
Was that him?
So everybody, please give us feedback. There's lots of ways to do that. You can send it to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com. You can go to our the Gruesome Magazine HNR and DOH Facebook group, Gruesome Magazine website. But you know what? You can come to YouTube now too, and you can leave comments, and you can like it, and you can subscribe, and you can get alerts for when we have an episode out. You could even become a patron, and if you do, you get, among other things, you get DOH episodes early. So, hey.
Hit that notification bell on YouTube so you get all the notifications, and rate us on iTunes. You hear me? Yeah, you. Rate us on iTunes.
I hear you. All right. Catch us again here in 2 weeks for another great horror movie of the classic eras. Only decades of horror can do it. Say goodnight, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Night.
Are we saying good night, those guys or us guys? Both guys?
Good night. Say good night, Jen.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.